Welcome back, guys. Today we are going to be creating a 3D still life inside of Maya, and it is a kind of an elegant looking render, so you can create pretty amazing thing by getting the idea of how you can create these kind of still lives. I do have a couple of references when I build this, and I just want to show you. And these are all the images that I took for references. You can pretty much create any object or utensil you want. You can search for a couple of examples just so you can get some idea. I'm going to start off by creating a simple wine glass and then try to create a random stuff like that, simple glasses, maybe a jar or something like that, and just move on with it. So there's not like a correct way of doing this. You can create pretty much any type of random object by your own imagination. So let's start off by creating a simple wine glass, right? And yeah, let's go. So I'm going to take a simple cylinder, and for now, as you can see, the subdivisions on this is too much. I don't need that many subdivisions. I'm going to start pretty low, maybe 8, and I'm going to turn off the caps to 0, right? So that way I have more control on the face. Alright, so we have a simple cylinder. Let's scale this down, way down, right, to somewhere like this, and let's start modeling this. Now I'm going to go to right click on this and go to face mode and select this face and simply hit Ctrl E to extrude this, or you can also click on this icon. Either you can also go to edit mesh and extrude, right, whatever works for you. And I'm just going to bring this up once it's extruded. As you can see, you're extruding this, and I'm just going to hit R to scale this, and I'm going to select the bottom piece to scale this uniformly. If you select any either point, it will kind of scale down on that axis, so make sure you're selecting the middle part. Now the way to model a simple wine glass very quickly is going to the front mode, and I'll tell you why. Because from the perspective view, from the perspective view, you're getting kind of a 3D look and not exactly getting the overall proportion on this. You can always go back and change your polys and vertices and so on, but it's better to start off something like this. Right, so I'm going to stay on the face mode and hit Ctrl E to extrude one more time, and I'm going to extrude this, scale this down, and Ctrl E and hit W, and let's move this right about there. All right, and I'm going to hit Ctrl E. Let's move this up, bring this right about here, Ctrl E. Let's move this up, something like this, Ctrl E, and I'm just going to keep scaling this. And let's hit Ctrl E and Ctrl E. Alright, something like this. So as you can see, we have something like this, which is not exactly what we were going for, and I'm just going to add one more segment into it. So I'm going to select my insert edge loop by simply going to the mesh tool and insert edge loop, and this will kind of allow us to add any edge loop we want anywhere. And I'm just going to select the edge mode, double click on this, and simply scale this. Alright, so I think it's looking good. I'm going to delete the top face, and we have something like this. If you press 3, you get pretty smooth look. Right now we have a lot of adjustment to do with this. So let's start off by, I'm just going to simply delete some of these segments, and maybe this one as well. And I think the rest is pretty good. Let's scale this down to something like this, and I think now it's looking quite good. So if you hit 3 on your keyboard, you get pretty smooth look going on. And there are a couple of problems with this mesh right now, and the first problem is obviously the bottom part. As you can see, it's getting a little bit chamfered. So to fix this, we are going to add a couple of edges into the corners, and what this will do is simply restrict those edges to kind of go soft on those areas. So I'm going to hit 1 once again, and I'm going to go to mesh tool, select insert edge loop, and I'm going to add an edge here. Now what this is doing is, if I hit 3 again, as you can see, the curviness is only happening from this edge to this one. So I'm kind of restricting this edge to go beyond this area to get even more smoother. So if I move this, as you can see, it's going even smoother on this area. So you can pretty much adjust this. Now to fix the bottom part, what we are going to, let me just turn off the grid. What you can do is simply go to a face mode, select this face, extrude this, and scale this down. Do this process a couple of times, and just a little bit more. You can close this if you want. You can simply merge them. And now if you hit 3, you get pretty nice look. So I'm going to add a couple of more edges around here, just so we have a cleaner look right about there, some here, and some here. I think it looks pretty good. And apart from that, I'm going to add some edges on the top, so we have a pretty clean look on the top. So I'm going to just increase the overall size on this, and maybe just increase these areas as well, and maybe select this. All right, so I think it looks pretty clean now, and as you can see, it's pretty thin right now. So what you can do is either you can simply extrude this inside, something like this, and then maybe flip the normals. And normals is something that shows the face of the polygons. So now you have pretty, you can say, closed overall look. So what I did there was a simple extrusion. For example, if you delete this face and you have a hollow object, something like this, what you can do is simply click on extrude, and you can pretty much create the depth outside or inside. Now the reason I didn't create the depth outside, because we already did an adjustment on the outside area, so I didn't think extruding that outside would be a good idea. Anyway, so what you can do is pretty much extrude this inside or outside, and these black faces that you're seeing right now is called something reverse normals. That means the polygon are facing in the wrong direction. If I show you the normals right now, let me just go to Windows, and I think it was in the display, yeah, display polygon and face normals. As you can see, these are our normals, and I'm going to select these faces and go to face and reverse normals. And now as you can see, it perfectly showing you the overall faces. Now they are all on the outer direction where they all should be. They shouldn't be on the inside part. So make sure you always check your normals before doing anything. And if you don't like this black areas that you're seeing right now, you can simply go to lighting and turn on the two-sided lighting. That will just get rid of those black shadowed areas. But I suggest highly to keep that off if you're working with polygons, which has a lot to do with normals. Let's move on. So I'm going to turn this off, face normals, and I hope you got the concept behind this. And I'm just going to add a couple of edges on the top. Okay, so I think we are good to go. It looks pretty nice, and now from here we can move on. Now I'm going to speed up the process, but to create a multiple class, I'm going to name this wine glass. Enter. Okay, so I'm going to just speed up the process now. I will try to create some random shapes just like this, and I'm just going to duplicate this by hitting Ctrl D and moving this along, and maybe just change the overall shape on this just a little bit. Okay, and now I will just randomly try to create more stuff. If you have trouble creating any stuff, something like that, you can simply slow down the video. I just don't want to take the overall time explaining how to do the modeling and stuff. I'm pretty sure you guys know how to do the modeling part. Now we are going to create a simple fruit, which is going to be a simple apple, and this is really going to be a very simple object. Now to do this, what we are going to do is go to the vertex mode, select one vertex, and if you double click on the your move menu, you have some couple of options, and you will see this soft selection. The shortcut key for this is simply hitting B on your keyboard, and as you can see, it turn this on, this option called soft select. And what this does is simply gives you a kind of a fall off for creating a very smooth kind of fall off going on. Now if I move this, for example, if I hit a normal selection, if I move this, as you can see, this is pretty rigid, right? And I cannot kind of manipulate this that much. But if I hit B, and you will see this fall off. That means yellow is kind of the strongest point, and as slowly as it goes red, that means it's going to be a kind of a fading away kind of that. So the way to understand a simple fall off is, the more yellow the color you see is more stronger area that's affecting, and more reddish or black area you see is more the least affected area. That means from 1 value it's going to the 0 value. So the more yellow area that you have is going to be affected, the less area will be completely black or maybe between the red color. So I'm going to decrease the area to somewhere like this. All right, and if I hit 3 on my keyboard, I can see this smoothness going on. So let me just, and I think this is looking quite good, so I'm going to keep it right here. I'm going to decrease the overall fall off on this. And if you don't know how I'm changing the overall size of the brush, you can simply go to the vertex, and if you hit B and hold the B on your keyboard, and you can move the left mouse button, and simply you can change the size. So hold B, click left click, and simply drag, and that's it. So you can change the size. Anyway, so we have a simple apple going on. I'm just going to turn this off. I'm going to hit B to turn this off again. Let's scale this down to something like this, and I think now it looks good. Let me just I'm just going to change one edge here, and I'm just going to decrease it something like this, and I'm just going to create a simple you can say stem for this. And let's bring it around here, and I'm going to snap it over here by simply hitting V on my keyboard. I can snap this to any vertices I want on this object, and let's scale this down. I'm going to change the axis to 8 and gaps to 0 again. Let's bring it around here. Let's scale this down, and I think it looks good. Now from here, I'm going to simply select this face and extrude this, and maybe rotate this to somewhere like this, and simply scale this down. Now it looks pretty hideous. So go to mesh tool, insert edge loop, and add some edges to this, and simply go to the vertices again, select this vertices, and kind of manipulate this around. And I think it looks pretty good now. Let's scale this way down. All right, so I think it looks pretty cool now. And if we hit 3 on this, we get something like this. Now I'm going to hit Shift I, and that will just enter in the isolation mode. That means I'm only concentrating on this part. So I'm going to select the face, and I'm going to delete the bottom face, and that will just help the overall topology to get kind of a linearized. The next thing I'm going to do is simply select this edge, or you can simply select this face and simply hit bevel. You can click on this icon. You can also go to mesh tool, edit mesh and bevel, and you can also click on Control B, the hotkey. So I'm going to click on this, and as you can see, you're getting this bevelness. You can change the amount of fraction, how much bevelness you want on this. So I'm going to change it to somewhere like this, and I'm going to increase some segment on this, maybe a couple. All right, so I think it looks pretty good. I can change just a little bit and maybe add some more. Yeah. So now if I hit 3, I get this pretty smooth looking kind of a stem. So let's get on with this. I'm going to select this and this, and let's duplicate this. So Control D and move this around. I'm going to select this and hit Control G to group this. You can also go to edit and click on group and group this. I'm going to call this Apple 1, and I'm going to group this as well. Let's call this Apple 2, and let's call this, I don't know, OBJ 1. I don't know what to call this. I don't know what to call this as well. This is all random stuff, and let's call this jar, I guess, if that makes sense. So we have all these objects completely lined up now. I'm going to create a simple backdrop for this, just so we have a very interesting looking background. I'm going to create a simple thing. Let's scale this up, and let's decrease the subdivision on this to 1 and 1. And I'm going to select the edge here, hit Ctrl E, move this up, and I'm going to hit Ctrl E one more time and just pull this backwards. You don't have to do this, I just like to make an S-shaped backdrop. And the next thing we are going to do is give a kind of a pretty smooth look to this backdrop. So I'm going to select this edge and this one, and I'm going to hit bevel. So now you have pretty nice bevel going on. Select the fraction and increase the segment, and there you go. So now you have a pretty smooth looking background going on. Now the only thing that is left is to simply adjust them or align them properly. So let's go to the front view, and I'm going to move this up. Let's align them around here, and I think the bottom part is kind of aligned. Now we are going to go to the top view and just simply adjust how these are kind of interacting with each other. So let's bring it over here, let's bring it around here. Okay, so I think it looks pretty neat and clean now. And the one thing, if you cannot select the whole group, all you have to do is hit the up arrow on your keyboard and it will select the whole group. If you are selecting an individual element, you can simply the top arrow on this, and there you go. I'm just going to give a little bit of interaction to this. I'm going to rotate this somewhere like this, and we put it some backwards a bit. So let's put it right about here, and I'm going to bring this about here. All right, so I think it looks pretty good. What you can also do is simply rotate this glass. I'm going to go to the side view, hit 4 on your keyboard to turn on the wireframe, and if you hold down J, you can rotate this in some every 15 degrees, which is pretty nice. So although we don't need 90 degrees, 15 degrees actually on this, so I'm going to keep it right about there, and I'm just going to rotate this something like this, just to give a kind of a dramatic look to this scene. And I think now it looks pretty good, and I'm just going to check here. All right, so now I think it looks pretty good now. And as you can see, I have already camera set up here, and if you don't like this camera, I can select and take another camera here. I can move this back, and I think it looks pretty good now. We are good to go for the final scene. I've already set up one HDRI map for this. You can also use an HDR to set up the lighting. I'm not going to get into the lighting stuff. It will be, I think, time consuming, and I'm pretty sure you all can do some lighting. So I'm going to select the main camera. I'm going to call this main. And let's turn on the film gate, and let's move this somewhere like this, maybe 4. Let's bring this back. So I'm going to rotate on the X axis, and maybe increase somewhere like this. All right, so I think it's looking quite good. 7.5 maybe, sorry, 6.5 will be perfect. Yeah. And I'm just going to move my camera on the right side just to follow the rule of third on this. Right, so I think it looks pretty good. I'm going to lock my camera here, and let's turn on our IPR to see what we have. Okay, so as you can see, it looks pretty good now. So we can get into the shading and overall process for this. Now we are going to create 2 types of materials for this. The first will be a simple matte black with a little bit of glossy finish on this, and the second will be a gold material. So I'm going to start off by creating a simple material. Let's take a sans surface and focus on the sans surface. Let's call this matte black, and I'm going to make the weight to 1 and metalness to 0.5. Roughness will be 0.5. I'm going to make this complete black. And I'm also going to add a little bit of quote in this, and maybe the roughness of 0.3. So we'll see how this material is looking. So I'm going to select all these objects, and I'm going to apply the existing material matte black. So all have been, I'm going to leave the stem as it is for now, and let's see. So I'm going to select my main shape, and I think it looks pretty good, although I do want a little bit more roughness on this. So I'm going to select my, where is it, matte black, and maybe increase a little bit of roughness on the coat. All right, I think it looks pretty good. Maybe 0.5 on this. Yeah, perfect. So I think it looks pretty good. Let's close this, and from here I'm going to select a certain type of areas where I want a certain type of colors. So what I can do is I can go to the front view, and I can simply go to the face mode and select any random face I want, for example this area, and I can right click on this and assign a new material. Go to Arnold, standard surface, and select gold. Go to preset and gold, and that's it. So now we have two materials going on, which looks pretty good. And let's stop this here. I'm going to close this, and I'm also going to maybe change the blackness on this to complete maybe like 5% or something like that. And here I'm going to do the same with this one as well. I'm going to go to the face, select this face, existing material, gold. All right, I think it looks pretty good now. And okay, so I'm going to turn this off now, and I'm going to do the same with this. So just select a random area you want to add that type of shading, and I'm going to make this gold as well. And I have this wine glass, and let's select the top one and add an existing gold. Sorry, gold, perfect. I have this. I'm going to go to the top view, and I'm just going to, if you cannot select the face on this, you can simply click on one face and double click on the other one to select the whole rim on this, and you'll be good to go. Otherwise, you can also select the other one, and you can hold shift and upper bracket to kind of increase the selection on this, whatever works for you. So I think I'm going to go with this one, and let's add gold. Yeah, perfect. And for this, I'm going to select the stem and add existing material, gold. This will be gold as well, and let me just select this and maybe rotate this, and I'm going to change the overall orientation on this. If you double click on your rotation, you can change the orientation from the object to the world, and now I can simply move this something like this. Perfect. Now I think we have this guy remaining, so I'm going to select something maybe like the middle part and add the gold material. Perfect. So I think we are pretty much done with this scene, and I'm just going to add a little bit of variation to this apple. So I'm going to select this and this face and add existing gold material. Now the one thing is remaining, and that is our floor, the backdrop. So I'm going to assign a new material to this. Let's select and standard surface, and let's call this backdrop. I'm going to make a kind of a gray backdrop with a little bit of metalness, so 0.3, and the roughness will be around 0.4 maybe. And let's see. All right, it looks pretty good. I'm going to decrease the overall color on this. All right, so there you go. This is how you can create a still life. Let me just crank up the overall test resolution on this and update the whole scene. So let me just scale this up. So it looks pretty good. You can try random stuff, create different kinds of abstract art with this. It totally depends on you what kind of look you're going for. I don't think I like those two strips on the apples, so I think I'm going to get rid of that, and maybe, so which one was that, and select this, and I'm going to add a gold material as well. And the other thing I want to add is adding a little bit of gold in here. All right, so I think we are good to go here. Let's turn on the IPR, and this looks pretty cool. So if you have any doubt regarding anything that you saw in here, please feel free to ask me. And these are all random shapes. I totally created them on my own. If you like, you can create take these references. I took these references for the overall inspiration behind the still life. So go through this, create a pretty complex structure to go with a pretty interesting and unique look. This was just a simple video demonstration, that's why I didn't bother to kind of create a complex structure for this or anything like that. But feel free to experiment with this kind of technique or the shading overall. Apart from that, if you have any trouble doing the lighting part, I can just simply change this, intensity is 0, and maybe just take a simple sky dome light on this and decrease the overall intensity on this, maybe like 0.1, just to fill the area. And as you can see, it looks not good. So I'm going to pause this, and you can go to rendering and take a directional light, and let's close this for now. And so go to perspective view, there it is, a directional light. Let's bring this up, scale this up, and I think I'm going to keep it something like this. You can also turn on the overall light to see how your scene is looking. Let's bring this up again. So now you can see how the overall, I think I'm going to get rid of the sky dome light, and I think the directional light is doing pretty good job. So I can have a directional light and maybe an area light, so I can properly manipulate the overall area. Otherwise, if you don't like directional light, you can also go with Arnold's area light. I'm going to scale this up now, and maybe rotate this, bring this right about there, something like this, and maybe increase the exposure to 4. And now if we'll see, I think we need more exposure on this. Yeah, so I think this looks pretty good as well. So you can try having multiple area lights to go with your render and whatever works for you. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any doubt, please feel free to ask me. And if you do create any renders using this method, please feel free to send me. I'd love to see your work. And again, enjoy the video. Bye bye.